Hello everyone and welcome back to some more Warhammer Underworlds. Yep, we're playing more of it, been in the mood for it quite a bit lately, and there is a new warband, or group, or whatever you want to refer to them as, on the table today with Elathain's Soulraid. Apologies if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but he's not real so it doesn't matter. Going up against one of my favourite warbands, the Headsman's Curse, and we'll see how a new warband does. Well, I say new, they're not a new release. I think they're back from the Dire Chasm age, thereabouts, something like that. So they are a bit of a dated one. They haven't been updated recently or anything like that. It's just new in terms of having them painted up. And also, just a quick shout out to my friend, online screen name Evil Vice President, because he actually gifted these to the channel. I apologise it took so long to get them painted up, but thank you for the very nice gift. So let's start by talking about the new / old warband. First time seen, but definitely the older of the two releases. Being led by Elathain, the ill-fated, who is right here. He is bringing along Furan. These names are very... Furan, I guess. I'm not entirely sure if that's how it's pronounced. I'm going to go with Furan right there. And then we have Tamiel at the back here. Then they're bringing along Claw, their pet crab. And at the back there is Spinefish, or Spinefin. Spinefin. That was just a case of not being able to read the card from it being too far away. Spinefin does not need to start on the table. He can appear later on, and very similarly to Skritter in Scabic's Plague Pack, if he dies, he doesn't actually die, he just gets removed, doesn't give up glory, etc, etc, and he can come back from placing down what's called show tokens, which you can do if he's not on the table as well. Then he kind of spawns in. I think he facilitates certain objective cards. He obviously can provide support, but he himself cannot be activated. He can't move, he can't attack. He does have a defense stat and 1 health. Simple as that. The rest of them all have 3 health except Elathain himself, he has 4. Their Inspire condition is, it's the second round of the game. Simple as that. For the entirety of the second round, they will be inspired. It wears off when you go into the third, although I think there's a card that lets them re-inspire in the third round if certain conditions are met. Beyond that, they also have a rule called Riptide. Is it called Riptide? Yes. Oh, sorry, Floodtide. Which is, if they have a move token on them, they are allowed to do another move or a charge. So normally if you have a move token, you can't do a charge. They're the exception. They're all about that kind of ebb and flow of water, I guess, is kind of like their theme. So we will see how they do today. If I miss anything, we'll discuss it when it happens. In general, they're okay at attacking. 1 defense die. Furan, however you pronounce their name, is the better defense one with 2 defense dice off the off. So does Claw, the crab. He has 2 defense dice as well, but he's looking for less good stats to land a hit. Either way, we'll see how they do today. And we don't need to hear too much about the Headsman's Curse because they've been on so often. Wielder of the Blade, Sharpener of the Blade, Scriptor of the Sentence, and the Bearer of the Block. They want to earn Condemned tokens to inspire, and I always forget every single criteria for gaining one of those tokens, but you can give them tokens from like the Scriptor of the Sentence issuing them. But after a friendly fighter's attack action takes out an adjacent target that has a Condemned token, you take one. You can also earn one if the attack was supported, and you can also earn another one if it was a large target, although that doesn't apply here because none of the enemies have 5 or more health, nor will they on their Inspire side either. So, seen them plenty of times before, don't need to talk about them. After this quick word from our sponsors, we'll be back with the table setup. This video is sponsored by Noble Knight Games. Check out the video description below for an affiliate link that will take you through to their store, and it will help me out as well. Thanks. And just like that, we're back with everything set up, and it will be Elathain's Soulraid taking the first action in round 1 once we get started. But you can see where they're set up. The fish, the Spinefin, got it right the third try, is starting on the table but can come back if killed and won't actually be activating. Just because there was that front spawn point, consider it being a good location because then he can support from there if a fight breaks out in no man's land or just around him in general. And there's no downside if he dies because he doesn't give up glory. Scriptor of the Sentence down here, Bearer of the Block, then the Bearer of the Blade and the Sharpener over there, sorry, the Wielder of the Blade every time. And down here we have our crab, then we have Tamiel with his big spear. He gets extra damage on his spear if he does it as part of a charge action because I guess he's doing a running throw, which is pretty cool. And then we have Elathain himself up there with the impronounceable Fuirann. Furan. Who knows? Let's hope they die first. Anywho, objectives. We have objectives 2, 3, and 1. not 4. Would have been too perfect if it was. But the 2 highest value objectives over here, 5 and 4, are in the Headsman's Curse section. So with that, let's jump into round 1 and see how this new old warband does. So it was Tamiel that got the game started. I really hope I'm pronouncing that anything close to correct. He's got a couple of different attacks he can do with that spear with attached rope of his. He has a range 3 dice for 1 damage, but it has impact, so if you're doing it as part of a charge, it does 2 damage. Or you can just get up close and personal, 2 hexes or less, to use it just as a spear. It has a built-in rule called Riptide, which is during the drive back step, instead of pushing the target 1 back, you can actually just push them 1 hex. As in, you can pull them towards you, you can pull them to the side, etc. It doesn't have to be away. Anywho, 2 dice looking for hammers for 2 damage, and he managed to start the game on a sour note by whiffing by getting 2 single supports, which mean nothing. To give him a bit of support then, in the power phase, Cloud of Midnight was played, which is very similar to a Crimson Court card. Choose 1 friendly fighter until the end of the next activation. That fighter cannot be the target of attack actions, can't be chosen to be damaged by gambits, and cannot be pushed, and it is being used on him, so he is immune to whatever the Headsman's Curse do for their first activation. Well, it's the old Headsman's Curse classic first activation, the Sharpener of the Blade, who you can't even really see because he's behind the bearer of the blade there. Sharpening Exterminus, whatever it's called, I've forgotten what the big sword is called. Either way, it is sharpened for +1 damage, so he's now swinging for 4, which will insta-kill anyone on the opposing team, including Elathain himself, as long as the hit actually lands. The second activation of round 1 for Elathain's Soulraid was Citizen Snips, which is what I'm just going to call him now, though his actual name is Doonclaw. The crab did a charge action, he moves 3 hexes, he rolls 2 dice looking for swords. He didn't get swords, but he did get a crit, which was not blocked by the bearer of the block, who took the full force of the blow, and that is 2 damage. That's half his health gone from the crab snipping at him a little bit. No cards played again in the power phase by either side. Well, war never changes. Sorry, wrong game. Anyway, the wielder of the blade activated, did a charge action, was quite brave, just went right into the enemy lines with 4 hex of movement, got right next to the impronounceable there, and took a swing, got 1 success, was looking for hammers on 2 dice, and she rolls 2 defense dice looking for dodges. She is the most evasive alongside the, crab is most defensive. He's looking for shields on 2 dice. Point is though, she got a crit, so the powered up hit from Terminus was the name of the sword. I said Extremis, I was close. No damage, so that's very bad. That is how the Headsman's Curse usually goes, unfortunately, because they're so cool. But if you just miss those powered up swings, you've wasted not 1 activation but 2, and hopefully we'll get punished for it. Well, I bet they're doubly wishing that attack landed now, because third activation of round 1 was Furan. I really wish they were the one who died there. Anyway, she did a charge action and went after the bearer of the block in an effort to take him out. She rolls 3 attack dice looking for swords. She got a crit again, and although he did roll a success, actually no, he needs dodges, so doubly failed. But either way, the crit obviously gets through. It does 2 damage and takes out the bearer of the block, so that's 1 glory for that. But they also score a second after the activation ended for Speed of the Flood Tide. So that's our 2nd glory from this card. Surge scores immediately after an activation if 3 or more friendlies are in enemy territory. Her, the crab, and him. So that's 3 right there. And 1 glory is also being spent to give Elathain Unstoppable Fury, which is an upgrade that says you can reroll 1 attack die in this fighter's attack rolls as long as it's part of a charge action. So his charges are now even better. However, that's not the last you're seeing of the bearer of the block, because You Must Serve is being played by the Headsman's Curse. So he's coming right back, being given a raise counter, gets put on a starting hex in territory, but because the other 4 are still alive, he gets given health, or rather damage, down to 1 health remaining. So yes, he's back, but in a fragile state. Second last activation for the Headsman's Curse was the Scriptor of the Sentence, who did a charge, although he actually kind of charged up the table rather than along. Went where you can see him right there next to the Sharpener of the Blade. He's got range 3 on his Condemnation attack or whatever it's called. 3 dice looking for hammers. He only managed the 1 hammer, but it did get through because she rolled 2 shields and she's looking for dodges. It only does 1 damage, but more importantly, it gives her a condemned token, so she dies with that. That starts working towards them all inspiring. And where he moved, it gives potentially a little bit of protection to the bearer of the block, because if someone moves there, he'll get supported. Last activation of round 1 for Elathain. Soulraid was the man himself, and he decided to be brave, going after the wielder of the blade himself, charging entirely 1 hex, because that gives him the bonus from Unstoppable Fury for 1 reroll. He rolls 3 dice on his basic attack for 2 damage with a rule called Soul Harvest. If he gets a kill with it, he can bring back Tamiel if he's dead, which is pretty neat, because he steals souls. That's kind of his thing. He only got 1 success, and that was after the reroll. The wielder of the blade rolls 2, looking for dodges, and got that crit, so no damage there at all. Now they did have 1 other unspent glory. They have spent it now in the power phase here on Martial Excellence, which has also been given to Elathain to give him a bit more defensive buffs. If he has a charge token, he's considered on guard. Simple as that. So that's his second upgrade, and that takes us to the final activation of round 1 for the Headsman's Curse. Well, after that, the Headsman's Curse did manage to get some stuff done. It was the Bearer of the Block who activated and did a charge action. He was after some revenge. Adjacent to the unpronounceable one, 2 dice looking for hammers, but got that crit. She got 1 successful defense, but that doesn't block the crit, so that is 2 damage on top of the 1 she received earlier. That is enough that I never, well, at least for now, need to learn how to pronounce her name. So she's dead for 1 glory, although it's actually 2 because Bound in Servitude also scored. It has 2 potential scoring criteria. It's the top one, which is a friendly Chain Rasp's attack action takes an enemy fighter out of action. Simple as that. He has the Chain Rasp keyword. 1 glory of the 2 they just earned is being spent on Ethereal Immunity and giving that to the wielder of the blade. It means during his defense rolls, double supports rather, are always successes, which is pretty powerful. And so we enter the end phase with both sides being even on 2 glory. However, that has changed now. The Soulraid, Elathain Soulraid, are scoring nothing in this end phase, so they're sticking at 2 as we go into the second round. But the Headsman's Curse are scoring 2 on All Rise, which has 2 certain scoring criteria. It's the second one, which is apt here. 1 or more enemy fighters were taken out of action, and 1 or more friendly fighters have a raise counter. That is true. The Bearer of the Block has the raise counter, and the unpronounceable died. So that means as we go into the second round, Headsman's Curse have 4, playing 2. So as we begin round 2, it will be the Headsman's Curse activating first. However, all the surviving members of Elathain Soulraid are inspired for this turn and this turn alone, unless a certain power card pops up that I believe lets them all re-inspire again in the third round. So not too much changes on their inspired side. Most of them get faster. So Tamiel and Elathain have movement 5. And that's honestly mostly it. It seems like the defense doesn't get better. Yeah, it seems more or less it, with a couple of extra keywords attached to like cleave on their basic attacks, which is, you know, cleave is powerful to be fair, but not too much changes. So a fairly busy first activation for round 2 for the Headsman's Curse. The Script of a Sentence did a charge action, moving to where you can see them there. They have range 3, so they shouted some condemnation at Elathain, getting 2 successes, one of which was a crit. Now he rolled a crit on the 1 defense die he gets. The rest of his team get 2, but he gets 1. But oh well. And although that is countering out that, it doesn't count out the other success or counter the other success. So 1 damage gets through, and he is condemned whether it does damage or not, and that's the important part. Now you might notice the Sharpener of the Blade has vanished. That's because Roaming Witness was played in the power phase. So you pick a Chain Rasp, you remove them, you place them on an Edge Hex, they get a charge token. This is not coming into focus. And then if they are adjacent to any enemies, they get a Condemn token as well. So the Sharpener has popped up on the Edge Hex right here, given a charge token. He is adjacent to Tamiel, who as a result has also been given a Condemn token. So now he has a Condemn token, so does Elathain, and they already collected 1 from the 1 kill they've had. So Elathain himself was the first activation for his Soul Takers round 1, and making use of that massive 5 hex movement, did a charge action, kind of slithered through all the enemies and appeared round behind the Bearer of the Block attacking him. 3 dice looking for hammers, he got 3 hammers. I didn't use the reroll because those are all successes. And the Bearer of the Block was looking for dodges. So once again, with his 1 health remaining, he is out there for 1 glory, but also a second one for Taker of Souls. I don't know if ghosts have souls, but either way. Scores immediately after your leader's range 1 attack action that takes an enemy out of action. So, yep, he did that. So now it's all even with 4 per side. Oh, a catastrophic turn of events happened after that as the Wielder of the Blade activated Did he charge action? He moves 4 hexes, so he was able to chase after Elathain. Rolled against him, 2 dice looking for hammers, got that crit, and Elathain whiffed his defense roll. His 3 damage with the 1 he received earlier from the scripture of a sentence in the first activation is enough that Elathain's dead. That is it. He is dead. Now, a few different things happen. First, he had a condemn token, so that's the second condemn token gathered for the Headsman's Curse. He wasn't a large fighter and he wasn't supported, so none of that applies. But 1 for the kill on Elathain. Goodbye to you, sir. I'll talk about him and his warband in the next getting stuff painted if you're curious, because the camera is struggling with him. He's got a net and like a snake and everything. He's all over the place. So he's out there, but not only did they score the 1 for the kill, they actually scored 2 for off with their head. You score this immediately after your friendly leader takes a enemy out of action, but you also gain an additional 1 if it was the enemy leader, which it was. So that means they're up to 7 now, which is not good. Well, the roughness continues as Tamiel was activated just to try and kill the Sharpener of the Blade. It's a 2 health model. He does 2 damage. Seemed like a sure thing, especially after he rolled a crit, but not when a crit is rolled on defense. On his inspired side, he would have countered dodges, which is what he was looking for anyway. So he rolled exactly what he needed to make that not happen. Now, to give him a bit more survivability, in the power phase, a glory was spent to give him Born from Agony. It can be given to anyone who has the Idoleth. How do you pronounce it again? Idoneth, sorry. Keyword, which he does. It's +1 wound and lethal hexes don't hurt him. There's no lethal hexes, so the latter doesn't matter. But it means he is a 4 health model, so he's not giving up extra glory if he does die. He's just a little bit harder to kill. Second last activation of the second round for the Headsman's Curse was the Script of a Sentence. They all have charge tokens, so they are limited for what they can do, but he decided to shout some zealous accusations at the crab, accusing it of being a crustacean. Pretty much got him banged twice on that. That said, though, he did miss, but it still gives him the condemn token whether it does damage or not, so that at least is something. It means Tamiel and the crab both have that last condemn token that they want to try and take to inspire. Well, Tamiel jumped on the opportunity to try and make up for his last activation by activating again, doing attack action against the Sharpener of the Blade adjacent to him, and this time managed to get him. Hammer, no successes, boom, just getting the 1 glory though, no cards scored on that, so that's their 5th glory, and still trailing by a couple. Though the lead is actually worse than that, because after the activation in which the crab, the Dune Claw, was given the condemn token, Quick to Judge met the scoring criteria, so we're just going to cover that and class it as scored now because it should have. It's a surge. There is a surviving friendly leader, yes there is, and 2 or more enemy fighters each have a condemned counter. Yes, the 2 surviving enemies that aren't a fish do have it, so that did score, so that was actually their 2, 4, 6, 8th glory right there. Well, I'm glad we covered that because there isn't much to say about the final activation of round 2 for the Headsman's Curse, since it was the Script of a Sentence attempting to once again accuse the crab of being a crustacean and whiffing entirely. So nothing there at all. Already got a condemned token, you can't have more than 1, so that's that. Oh man, it is not Tamiel's day. He did a charge action to end the second round off with. Range 2 on that spear for his close combat version. 2 dice looking for hammers. Yep, you know, what can you say? He rolled swords. He was going after the big man himself, the wielder of the blade, bearer of the blade. I do that every time. No, I did it right first. It's bearer of the block, wielder of the blade for once. Point is though, no damage, so that's just a blech end to the round for both sides really. Let's see if they score anything in the end phase. At the end of the second of 3 rounds, both sides are scoring. Judge lest ye be judged is scoring for 1 for the Headsman's Curse. Scores in the end phase if each surviving friendly fighter has 1 or more move or charge tokens. There's 2 surviving ghosts, they both have charge tokens, so yeah, that is their 9th glory. The Soulraid, what's left of them, is scoring Cold-Eyed Killers for 2, which is okay. It's a bit of a net positive there if it comes into focus. I can't quite tell, there we go. Score this in the end phase if 2 or more enemy fighters were taken out of action in the preceding action phase. They were indeed. The bearer of the block died again, and so did the Sharpener. So as we go into the third and final round, it's 7 playing 9, still certainly everything to play for, although both sides have suffered some heavy losses. That said, the wielder of the blade is still obviously alive, and he does enough damage to one-shot almost everybody. Born from Agony giving Tamiel +1 health would stop him insta-dying, which is the only saving grace really. At the top of the third and final round, it will be Elathain's Soulraid, well, the 2 plus fish that are left, and they have uninspired because of, I think it's called Ebb Tide, or Ebon Tide, which just says when it's the third round you uninspire. So they've powered down a little bit, and they're going up against one kind of fragile ghost and one very powerful ghost. Let's see how they do. And the third round got started with the crab going for a little scuttle, doing just a movement action for reasons round to here. In the power phase, Fury of the Storm was played, so this is an important card. This is play only in the third round. Each surviving friendly fighter becomes inspired unless another player discards 2 power cards, in which case nothing happens. Well, they had a handful of nothing they wanted to use, so the Headsman's Curse got rid of Cackling Nightmare and Chilling Grasp, which means that cancels out Fury of the Storm, so they will not be re-inspiring. The Wielder of the Blade activate first for the Headsman's Curse in the final round, doing a charge action from where he was, 4 hexes. He got adjacent to the crab, took a swing, got a crit, and that swing got through for 3 damage rather, which is enough to kill him. And he had a condemned token, so that means after the power phase, in which no side played a card, also 1 glory for the kill obviously, no side plays any cards, the power phase ends, they have 3 condemned tokens, all of them inspired, and by all of them I mean the 2 surviving ghosts, which doesn't really matter at this point. But what does matter is, on his inspired side, the Wielder of the Blade now does 4 damage base, which is terrifying. Well, Tamiel activated, being the last person standing that is allowed to activate, because as a reminder the fish can't, and did a charge action, kind of away from the Bearer of the Block, Wielder of the Blade I mean, why did I say Bearer of the Block, I don't know, and swung at him, got 2 successes, which were, oh actually, does he do anything about the, nope, he's not inspired. If he was on his inspired side, he had ensnare, and it would have utterly voided those 2 successes. Such as it is though, it blocks the attack fully. In the power phase, Crushing Pressure was played. Now it does a bunch of stuff unless the opponent discards a power card. So really, if you want to read what it does, feel free, but a power card was played, so it's doing nothing. Lurking Crony is being discarded right there, so nothing again, unfortunately. Second activation of the third round for the Headsman's Curse was a little bit of a surprise one. The Scriptor activated and just backed off with a movement action. Just ran away. Outside of the threat radius at most he can do 3 hexes, and he's currently at 4, so he is safe. And with that charge token already, it means at best he can just do a move or an attack, not both. And if he gets near the Wielder of the Blade, there's that 4 damage, which is enough to one-shot him even with the Born from Agony upgrade. So that puts him in a bit of a position where it's kind of like, well, what can you do, assuming there is something you can do? And I guess we'll see. Well, Tamiel activated and moved precisely 1 hex to the north for a movement action and did nothing else. What is this posturing? The Wielder of the Blade activated, did a movement action and moved precisely 1 hex adjacent to where he was, and then did nothing else. They're staring each other down. It's like a Wild West movie. Well, second last activation of the game, or no, was that the last activation of the game? Sorry, yeah, that's the last activation of the game. Tamiel activated and moved precisely 1 more hex north away from the enemies, but that actually scores for 1 glory, Surging Tide, which is Scorbus immediately after 1 friendly fighter's second or subsequent move action. That's why he was doing it. So that is his 2, 4, 6, 8th glory. Still behind, but the end phase could change things. Well, the last activation of the game, and it actually is a lot more significant than it might look like. The Wielder of the Blade did another movement action, went right up into Tamiel's face and basically just went, boo. Didn't do anything else. But, as I say, that actually has annoying repercussions that we'll discuss in the end phase now. So, why was that especially annoying? Well, let's cover what did score for Elathain's Soulraid. They are scoring 1 for Guardians of the Deep, which is this card here, hopefully in focus. It's a bit harder to get these older cards in focus. Scorbus in end phase if there are no enemy fighters in your territory. It's true, so 1 glory. What would they have scored? Well, they would have scored another 2 with Utter Isolation had the Wielder of the Blade not walked adjacent to him. This is Scorbus in end phase if there's 1 or more friendly surviving fighters and no fighters adjacent to any other fighter. So it would have been 2, which, as it turns out, wouldn't really have made a difference. So it doesn't really matter. If all surviving fighters on the table had been adjacent to each other and there was at least 1 enemy, I believe, Dead or Doomed would have scored for 3. That might have made a difference, but because there was 2 ghosts left, no. All he scored was Guard into the Deep. So, why did the Wielder of the Blade move adjacent to Tamiel? Well, that was for their own ends. That was so Savouring the Inevitable could score for 1. Score this in the end phase if a friendly fighter is adjacent to one or more enemy fighters, and one or more of those enemy fighters have one or more wound or condemned counters. He's got a condemned token, so that is why it wasn't just pointless, it was to score that. But they're also scoring 3 for the Triumph of Death, which is a fun card. He's T-posing to assert his authority on the card. That's how you know he's a winner. There's 1 or fewer surviving enemy fighters. Oh, actually, does the fish count? If the fish counts, then this isn't the case. Actually, let's see here, because he is a friendly fighter. He's just on. He doesn't count for cards if he's removed. This fighter cannot make actions, be given upgrades, or hold objectives. So that's not relevant. If it would be taken out of action, you just lift it off the table. I think actually he counts as a friendly still. So no, never mind. The Triumph of Death does not score because there's 2 surviving friendly fighters. The other criteria was, and there's 2 or more friendlies surviving, which there is because the scripter's live. But actually, those 3 do not score, which means it was closer than I thought. Because Elathain Soulraid has 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, playing 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. So they lost by 2. Meaning that had the wielder not had the range, if he wasn't inspired, he wouldn't have had the range, would he? No, because he would have been moving 4 hexes. So if he hadn't moved there, that would mean that they had 1 less, and Soulraid would have had 2 more, and they would have won by 1. That was a lot closer than I thought it was. I thought the Triumph of Death had, it made everything else, didn't matter, because it scored for 3, but no, the fish, the stupid fish, just sitting there. That is what made that not score. And that is going to do it for another Warhammer Underworlds for the table with the first showing of Elathain's Soulraid. We'll hopefully see them again in the future. Definitely need to work out how you're supposed to use the fish. Is it better to not have him on the table to start with? Because the reaction to put down a soul, not a soul token, what's it called? Shoal token is a reaction. It's not, you don't use up one of your 4 turns to do it. So you can kind of control where he pops up. But again, it's got to just be for the support, right? Unless there's certain objective cards we didn't see there, because there might be. Not sure how to use him. In general, they did well enough, and it ended up actually being a lot closer than I thought it would be. So for a first showing, for an older warband that isn't up to date with stuff like the Headsman's Curse, I would say not too bad. Yeah, not too bad. Anyway, if you want to support seeing more Warhammer Underworlds on the channel, please do remember to like, comment, or subscribe. Or if you want to support the channel in general to help keep this possible, maybe press the thanks button, or become a channel member, or check out the channel sponsor. If you buy anything via the affiliate link, I get compensated. Also, certain videos are posted early to channel members, just by a little bit. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your day, and see you next time. Ta for now.